All right, folks, let's talk tobacco. I know what you're thinking. Jim, is this a buy signal? Well, before you dismiss the entire sector, hear me out. We're diving into Imperial Brands today, a company that's been lighting up portfolios with juicy dividends. Now, I get it. Tobacco's got baggage, regulations are tightening, and fewer people are picking up cigarettes. But that's the old narrative. Imperial's cooking up something interesting, and it's time to separate the ash from the embers. This isn't about promoting smoking. It's about analyzing a company that's adapting to a changing world. They're streamlining operations, focusing on key markets, and most importantly, paying you to wait. So buckle up, because we're about to explore whether Imperial Brands is a hidden gem or a burning ember. Stay tuned. Let's get down to brass tacks. Imperial Brands is a cash-generating machine. Their recent performance shows strong cash flow and profitability. That's right, even in a tough environment, they're raking it in. This isn't a fluke, people. They're a dominant player in the tobacco market with a global reach and a portfolio of iconic brands. This translates into pricing power and consistent revenue streams. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jim, isn't smoking declining? You're right, but Imperial's not just sitting there. They're adapting their strategy, but we'll get to that later. The key takeaway here is cash flow. It's the lifeblood of any business, and Imperial's got it in spades. This allows them to reinvest in their business, pursue strategic acquisitions, and yes, reward shareholders with those sweet, sweet dividends. Now let's talk about what gets income investors fired up: dividends. Imperial Brands is a dividend-paying powerhouse. We're talking about a high dividend yield that'll make your portfolio sing. Listen, I love growth stocks as much as the next guy, but there's something to be said for cold, hard cash hitting your account every quarter. Imperial's commitment to dividends is rock solid. They've got a long history of paying out a significant portion of their earnings to shareholders. And with their strong cash flow, they're well-positioned to keep those dividends flowing. So, if you're looking for a stock that can provide a steady stream of income, Imperial Brands deserves a closer look. Don't just take my word for it, do your own research. Now let's talk strategy. Imperial's not just sitting on its laurels puffing away on past glories. They're making smart moves to adapt to the changing tobacco landscape. They're simplifying their operations, focusing on key markets, and investing in innovation. They're like a lean, mean cigarette-selling machine. One of their biggest initiatives has been to streamline their brand portfolio. They're focusing on their powerhouse brands and phasing out the underperformers. It's all about efficiency, folks. By streamlining their operations, they're cutting costs and boosting profitability. This frees up more cash flow for those dividends we all love. See, it all comes back to the dividends. Section 5. Navigating a cloudy regulatory landscape. Let's not sugarcoat it, folks. The tobacco industry faces some headwinds. Regulation is a fact of life, and it's only getting tougher. Governments around the world are cracking down on smoking. We're talking higher taxes, advertising restrictions, and plain packaging laws. It's enough to make your head spin. But here's the thing. Imperial's no stranger to regulation. They've been dealing with it for decades. They know how to navigate the regulatory maze. They're actively engaged in discussions with regulators, and they're adapting their products and marketing practices to comply with the latest rules. They're playing the long game. Section 6. Puffing against the wind, risks to consider. Now, let's talk risks. Investing in tobacco isn't for the faint of heart. There are some real challenges facing the industry. The biggest one is obvious declining cigarette volumes. Fewer people are smoking, and that trend is likely to continue. This puts pressure on Imperial's core business. Then there's the rise of alternative products. E-cigarettes, heat-not-burn devices, and other nicotine delivery systems are gaining popularity. Imperial needs to compete in this space or risk being left behind. And let's not forget the litigation risks. Tobacco companies have been sued countless times, and those lawsuits can be costly. Imperial has a strong legal team, but it's still a risk factor to consider. Section 7. Undervalued and ready to burn? Now for the million-dollar question, is Imperial Brands undervalued? Some analysts say yes. They argue that the market is overly focused on the risks and ignoring the company's strengths. They point to Imperial's strong cash flow, high dividend yield, and strategic initiatives as evidence that the company is undervalued. They believe the stock has the potential to deliver significant returns. Of course, there's always another side to the story. Some investors are wary of the tobacco industry. They believe the risks are too great and the long-term outlook is too uncertain. So what's the verdict? It's complicated. Imperial Brands is a complex company operating in a challenging industry. There's no easy answer. Section 8. Balancing risk and reward. So, there you have it, folks. The potential value and challenges of investing in Imperial Brands. It's a high-risk, potentially high-reward play. On the one hand, You've got a company with a strong track record of profitability, a juicy dividend yield, and a management team that's taking steps to adapt to the changing market. On the other hand, you've got declining cigarette volumes, increasing regulation, and the rise of alternative products. These are real challenges that could impact the company's future performance. The decision of whether or not to invest in Imperial Brands is a personal one. There's no right or wrong answer. It all depends on your individual risk tolerance and investment goals. But one thing's for sure, Imperial Brands is a company worth watching. They're a major player in a dynamic industry, and they're making moves that could pay off big time for investors. So do your own research, folks. Read up on the company, analyze the financials, and decide for yourself if Imperial Brands is the right investment for you. And don't forget to subscribe to Mad Money for more stock market insights and analysis. We'll help you navigate the crazy world of investing and come out ahead. Now let's go make some money.